It's now time for Inside Sports Talk Radio with host Ian Rhodes and Earl Basden. Brought to you by Game Time, the Argus Group, Lindo's Group of Companies, Colonial Group International, Global Atlantic Financial Group, and Ethnic Florida, with Dave Wolf. Let's now go live with Ian Rhodes and Earl Basden.
And good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside Sports Talk Radio on this Monday. It's May 6th. We are 18 days away from the annual 110th Bermuda Half Marathon Derby, and joining us in the studio today is defending champion Mr. Lamont Marshall. We said last week he would join us in the studio. I got the dates mixed up, so please forgive me for that. Alongside him, his father, Mr. Larry Marshall. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
All is well?
Yes.
Good, good. Before we get to you, we just want to introduce our co-host, Mr. Earl Basden. Good afternoon to you, sir.
How you doing?
I'm feeling great.
So is the guy sitting across from you too.
Yeah, but he's feeling as great as me.
Yeah, he's a supporter of your team.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, right. Never walk alone. That's what we're talking. And you are Larry?
I'm sorry.
And your team is?
My wife's team's Arsenal. So I support her.
Arsenal. So that means they're going curling now, right? Because they didn't make the Champions League for next. Right, so they're going curling
until 5 o'clock tonight. You're curling until 5 o'clock tonight.
They can win the Europa and go to the Champions League.
But that's for next year. Oh, for this year, that's right. Yeah. You could. That's right.
But again, it's my wife's team, so I just support it because of her.
So then that's your team too. That's your team. You're trying to put it on your wife. Not even go there. Try. It's my wife's team, so I support it. No. You support Arsenal.
Okay, I support Arsenal.
That's all right.
That makes you feel better. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it does.
But like Earl said, until 5 o'clock tonight, you'll be.
That's true too, you know. But anything can happen, right?
You think Leicester's gonna win the league for you? No.
I can understand you saying that because you're Arsenal. That's not a problem.
Yeah, but I don't hate like that.
Man. No.
I would actually like to see Liverpool win.
Thank you.
But I think it's highly.
It's highly. Percentages are not in our favor.
Yeah.
Underdogs have won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Leicester won the league, so.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
They can't beat Man City or hold them to a draw.
They beat them already this year. You guys fought that, see? Okay. But that was then. This is now.
Yeah, it's for the
It's for the title, maybe. It's a totally different thing. So I understand that. That's so good. Good afternoon to you, Don Bassett.
Good day, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. All is well with you?
Yes, it is.
Good. I do want to say shout out to a special Arsenal friend of mine. He WhatsApped me on the weekend. He says, well, I'm going, what did he say? Not fishing. He said, I'm going to play darts now. So I said, oh, darts. I said, well, I want you to take up curling. He said, you may have to do that too.
And then 3 months.
3 months off?
Yeah, 3 months off. That's all they get off.
That's a lot of darts and curling, bro.
Nah.
I don't even understand either sport.
Yeah.
I like sports. Back to training.
Yeah, back to training.
Okay, well, it's understood. Well, see, Lamont, he trains all year round, so he didn't have to worry about where to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just defend his title this year. Good afternoon to you, sir. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah? Defending champion coming out of the East this year. The two other titles came out of the West, so this is going to be something new for you as a defending champion.
Mm-hmm.
What's your expectations this year?
I'm looking to, like you said, defend my title. I didn't defend 2016. I was focused on the track. This year, I've been doing more specific half marathon training, so it's exciting to see coming out of the East and to defend my title.
Mm-hmm. You just can't return from the Penn Relays last weekend, and I think this was going to be your last big race before the big race here for the 110th marathon, half marathon derby. How are you feeling?
It was good. It was like I was saying on first. It was definitely a late race. I think we started 10, maybe quarter after 11 p.m. So but it was a good time. I was trying to get obviously always under 30 minutes for 10K, but I managed to do 30:16, which is still my second best time of all time. My national record's just 8 seconds faster. So that's a really good indication of if you can just do low 30 for 10K heading into a half marathon. I was pleased with that. Yeah. So everything's good heading into the race.
Have you had a chance to run the course coming out east thus far?
I don't really run on the road, period, just because of traffic. I would just any road that has, like, you would see me Frog Lane or Palmetto Road with like sidewalks, or through the railway trails, or like Orange Valley Beasley Street Bridge is off of the main road. I don't really like traffic like that.
You haven't competed locally for a number of years. Is you just don't feel challenged enough?
It's a struggle. It's not. Before I used to really complain a lot and get really discouraged. I've tried working with some of the meet directors, and some of my suggestions have fallen on deaf ears. So you can only say so much for so long. I would always like to see faster courses, accurate courses. They don't have to be certified. I don't think that every course should or have to be certified for it to be accurate. At least, if you're running a 5K, let's not make it, over or under, because it messes up with your time, And I always wanted to see us exhaust Southside more. You can get anything from a mile to 10K Southside. It's all flat.
Is that what you mean by a faster course? Because somebody out there wouldn't understand what what I mean?
Limited heels.
Right.
I always wanted another chance to compete for a mile road race. You only have Front Street Mile to run a mile, but a mile is a very popular distance. I always wanted to see that. It's some of the races get pretty costly as well. Like some races are up to like $30, maybe $40 sometimes, and it's you're not really getting your bang for your buck all the time. So it's I really, at this point, the only race I do locally is May 24. Because I've only competed 4 times, and it's all overseas. So it's a struggle. I mean, hopefully, at some point it would gather more sort of encouragement for me and incentive for me to do some of the other races. But for now, no, it's just I'm sort of forced to go overseas.
Right. Larry, for you, it was a number of years ago when Lamont had hit the scene. Larry was still running at the time, and they were coming down from Somerset, and we weren't as sophisticated as we are now with technology. So when Larry made his break, everyone assumed it was Lamont. No, can you take us back to that?
Yeah, going into the race, it was a lot of pressure because a couple of days before, and Lamont was only like 22, and I think this encapsulates the magnitude of the race and the pressure, and that he said, "Look, Dad, if Burp or I, that's Larry Jr. Burp, if Burp or I don't win this year, I don't know. Like one of them had to win." And because Lamont he had broke a Bermuda record 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
He was the one that they were looking at. So the strategy was that at some point during the race, one of them would make a break. And whoever made the break, the other one would just sit behind Jay, Kevin, and Terrence. Wouldn't help him at all. So when Larry went, it was sort of like a little lapse, and they're like looking. Once no, I'm not going to fall for that trick. And that was the trick. Because once Larry got ahead, it was like he just put the helmet on.
Right.
And Lamont played his role. Yeah, I'm just sitting here with you guys, man. They've been worrying, and before they knew it, Larry had put about a minute and a half on him. And once he got over Inverloy Hill, it was it.
Right.
I mean, I think he done like 5:10 for those miles going down from Mansfield, and he was flying.
Right.
So that was a lot of pressure taken off, and anybody that's run this race and been competitive and finished on top, will tell you that it's more relief than elation, and that okay, finally we did it. And of course that year it was kind of mixed for me because Larry won,
right, but
Lamont had come second the year before, and the next mountain to climb we had to get Lamont there, and took us another 9 years. And because Chris came into the equation, and but still it was very sweet in 2016, and that was even more pressure because they felt that look, he has to win this year. And when you go in and second place just ain't good enough, that's a lot of pressure. So that was really for me the icing on the cake. My mission's accomplished. I've got both of them on top of the podium 24 for me. Anything else is icing on the cake.
Right. Lamont, for you, a strategy like that, where we talked about, what your dad was just talking about, having someone there to work out a strategy, is something very unique. Because come that race, everybody wants to beat everybody. So it's no real tactic talk amongst each other to try and... So how much of a difference is it when you have to figure out things on your own while the race is going on?
Experience. Back then, like you said, I was 22. Now I'm 34, going 35. I've run it. I know my first year was 2001. We're heading into 2019. So sometimes my best strategy now is to run the first 2 or 3 miles how I feel. Now I always have a goal time, yes, but you can't necessarily go into it with a time strategy if you're not necessarily feeling it. If you're not, just give yourself, like I said, 2 or 3 miles just to warm up, see how you feel, and then you can see, take a look around you, see how you feel. If you want to go a little early, if you want to lengthen the race, if you want to just sit and relax and just heading into those last couple of miles, just kick. So I always, like I said, I like to warm up first. That's what I call it.
How do you think the causeway so early in the race plays out?
It's great. A lot of people say they don't like stretches. I mean, who wouldn't like flat stretch? I love it. It's 3 miles.
Right.
Mile 3 is at I want to say maybe the airport roundabout, maybe. Well, I know the course is marked anyway, but yeah, you get 3 miles, so that's pretty much 15, 16 minutes of just flat, easy running, and that's perfect to warm up. Then you hit, Blue Hill and Francis Patton, those sort of rolling long hills. But the first 3 miles flat, it's perfect.
I know when people run, and you've said it already about how you feel. What would you rather, that steep, long hill, or that straight up, get it out of the way hill? Something like on Blue Hill, was it Bay Corner? That you go from the bottom all the way to the top up by Francis Patton.
Sometimes I would say, you know what it is? It's not if it's steep or not. It's where it's placed, and what I mean by that is like up here. This marks mile 10.
Right.
The one you're talking about marks mile 4.
Right.
So it's where it's placed. Like this might be easier or more challenging. You don't know, because I've been running close to an hour time I come on this hill. So it's always inclines sometimes hurt more.
Right.
So you can't just, I really couldn't answer that as opposed to saying it's really hills placed on the course.
What goes through one's mind, and Dad, you can probably help, because you've kind of coached them and molded them into the 2 champions they are. But going through their minds as the race is developing, because you start hearing people on the side and you don't want to get out of what zone you're in. What advice do you give them to make sure that they stay focused on the task at hand?
Well, like Lamont said, it's a race of experience, man. Because 24th of May is like no other race. I mean, the crowd is there, and going in, obviously, tactics are determined somewhat by who the competitors are. And we don't know if Chris is going to run this year. We don't know if Tyler's going to run this year. So if both of them run, now, there's no secrets. You know what Chris is going to do. He does it every race. He goes flying up.
Yeah.
He's not going to try to trick us. That's just his strategy. Tyler, more conservative like Lamont, he's going to hang back and gradually build into the race. So having said that, a couple of nights before, we know, okay, Tyler and Chris are running. Okay, so we look, okay, first 3 miles, use it or lose it. The flat, you don't let these guys, you don't let Chris get out too far. Or if you're feeling good, you might go the first mile. Now, a lot of it is, literally thinking on your feet. Because if you're feeling good that day, then you got to go for it. First mile, a little conservative, because that's one facet of our template. The first mile is always conservative. I don't care just how you're feeling, because you can't win 24 for me the first mile, but you certainly can lose it. Okay. Now, you drive the course a couple of times. You know, the hills, the inclines. You know what I mean. You gather information, and like somebody like Kevin Smith. Nobody knew that course like Kevin. Not just the mile markers, the half mile mark. He knew the course. And through experience, the tactics come in, and thinking on your feet, you're going to make decisions on the day. And again, it depends on the competitors that you got. And I will say this, that we have a template that we've used for the past 15 or 16 years that's been modified over the years. And mistakes that we've made, like when Lamont broke the record the first time, he did 30-20 at Penn Relays. And he reminded me the other day that I had him do an intense session on the track, which was unwise. And that cost him a few minutes. We're not making that mistake this year. Yesterday he did an 18-miler, and that will be his last long one before the race. So right now it's just, he did hill work the other day, probably one track session, and tuning up, because it's one thing having the tactics, but you've got to prepare to execute on the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could have all the best tactics in the world if you're not prepared. And this year, I think that he can get under 110. I'm pretty confident, because even at Penn Relays, he looked good. He maintained his form the entire race, and he averaged about 450 a mile. That is on the track. And to get under 110, we're talking about like 518, 520. So I think that translates into that.
When you say final touches, what does that look like? Does that mean short little hill work, or just feet up, or just a mile jog, or what does that look like when you're putting those final touches on?
Well, he would Friday, right, on the track.
Yeah, that'd be the last one.
Yeah,
That's
that
2 weeks out.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks out, and he would do like a mile, 1,200 and 800.
And weekly mileage is cut back as well. Like right now, I think was my last week was my last week of 85 miles. This week might be 70, and the week of the race maybe 50. So you just cut back down. Like I'm like, from 18 to lower one and 13, and just fine tuning, because once you get within the last 2-3 weeks, it's nothing you can do to gain a really good amount of fitness. So whatever I have now is what I'll have going into the race.
Right. We talk about we talk about you guys winning. What advice would you have to someone who just wants to have fun at the race, but wants to challenge themselves? What advice do you give them? Because it could be dangerous for some people, that don't prepare properly, and
Most people just don't train. Just like you said, it's not. It's like a lot of people literally wake up that morning and do it. That's what you can do. I would say at least start from the new year, January 1st, because at least you have a full 5 months. Anytime before that, and try to get your longest run at least up to, I would say, 10 miles. And that's, like you said, that's just people who just want to finish.
Right.
But if you're just, sort of, football season ends, well, footballers actually translate pretty good, because they've been doing 6 months, so I can't say that. But some people just wait too late. They're just stagnant, say, oh yeah, I'm going to start training. And I mean, I would say at least 3 to 5 times a week training, at least, because if you're, once or twice, you just got to put the time in, because you can't hide it. Sometimes on the track, you're just doing a quick little sprint or a lap or two, but if you're running from one end to half of the island, you can't get away from putting in proper training.
Let's take a commercial break, and we come back. We hear more from the defending champion.
Ian Rollins, and co-host Earl Baston.
Lamont, as you were telling our listeners and telling Earl and I that you scale back your running from 85 to 60 miles and so forth, how does your nutrition plan play a role in this?
Mainly bacon cheeseburgers and milkshakes, fries.
You should see how I'm looking at you, right?
He's got to have something to burn off.
Yeah. No, I eat.
I was like trying to think, really?
I'm not the best eater, but no, I a lot of bananas for potassium, nuts, hot and cold, like oats. Oats are really good. But the morning of the race, I never eat. I've never eaten.
So you run on an empty stomach, just a cup of tea and some juice or something.
If I'm really hungry, maybe a slice of toast or something. But I've never been hungry like that because I just always eat. I always race on an empty stomach. That's me. Some people have to have something light, and you know.
So going forward after the race, are you hungry or you just don't have an appetite because you lost it all? So you're just putting in the liquids, more drinks.
Yeah, more drink. Like, you know what's good? Grapes and watermelon, those type of fruits after the race. But after the race is just hydration more or less.
Right.
Yeah, so but before the race, no. I've never eaten.
Empty stomach.
Yeah.
And like you said, it works for some, and for others, some people have to put in a protein shake or bananas, whatever.
He trains on an empty stomach every day.
Well, that's true too.
That's what that's what I'm used to. Yeah.
Right.
So his body's used to that.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody else would get up in the morning, have a big meal, and won't make it out of Wellington.
Yeah.
That's what they used to. That's what the body's used to. So they give it what it needs, and won't
make it out of
Even
Wellington.
if you do eat something, it's more than likely going to be slight, like fruit or something or something like.
Wow.
You can't run off of the pancakes or nothing heavy like that.
You'd be surprised what people do though.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, yeah, I've seen a couple of cool honeykins at the start and lined up in various locations. I'm not going to say where, but I'm like, how can you complete the course? But nevertheless, as a defending champion, this being the first time coming out of the East, you say you're in good condition, you're feeling good. This course is a little different than Somerset. Have you really mapped it out, or you just gonna say, you know what?
I ran it in 2015.
Yeah, you ran
I just
That's
did it.
right.
But I've never felt the need to really map out courses as much, and that's because I'm used to running overseas. So it's like I've never been to those courses, so I just like show up on the line and
take it from there.
Yeah, but like I said, I've never felt comfortable training on the roads, like with just regular roads where cars can come across, and I've always been paranoid. So and plus I know my course. Like I just run from the house, railway trails, Arboretum. That's my course.
Right.
I never felt like I could drive in the course. It's fine.
Right.
That's good enough for me to get a decent sense of where the hills are, the inclines, where's the mile markers, and those sort of things.
Each day we get older, and each year we get older. So how do you feel compared this year to last year's fitness?
I think I'm more prepared for a half marathon. But it's last year, I think my fastest 5K was 14:22. This year's 14:16. Last year's 10K, I think I was slightly slower, like 8 seconds off. So it's pretty much very similar, but with the 15K I did in March, because that's just over 9 miles, so that's like 3/4 of the distance. I've never raced that far, so that was the main race to say, okay, well, 2-3 months out, let's get a good sense of your strength preparation. So I definitely feel that I'm stronger. But yeah, I'm definitely in a good place after running 30-16 10K to head into May 24.
Yeah, where do you watch the race from?
Last year I was on the car, but most of the time I stay home, man. It's listen to you guys, man, because it's just so much pressure. Drop. And when Larry was running, I'd drop him up Somerset, man, and just go home, listen to it.
Do you sit down and? Because
no, I walk up.
You walk up.
It's like
I only ask that because you go through different. Everybody goes through things a little different, and some people could sit there and listen, and others,
I have the miles 1, 2, 3, 4,
right.
and I mark every mile 5 5:10, 5:15, and do the cumulative where we should be. So, I mean, it's like this year coming from the east, because we live on Valley Heights, Devonshire. So that's, you can actually see the runners, man. So I'll be strategically located there, man, because that's all the neighborhood support us and everything. So, and I expect, Lamont's broke 2 Bermuda records this year. So in answer to him being a year older, is better.
Yeah.
Because whenever you break, and he broke his own record in the 5K, and the 15K he broke a 33-year-old record, held by the legendary Mike Watson.
Yeah. Right.
And he broke the record with like 48 seconds, that he beat the old record. So his stronger this year, and again, it's much better prepared, because if you go into May 24th, he's had 4 races and they've all been good. He won a 4-miler up in New York, and he beat the Ethiopian guy that came here for race weekend and came third. Lamont beat him, and his got some good times as well. And every race, all 4 races is done remarkably well. So that is a good testament going into. And again, the mistake that we made when he first broke the 10,000 meter record, we're not making this year, is gonna just like tune up on Friday, and just be prepared for any eventuality. Like yes, it's about who's in the race with you, but it's about executing on the day, and I expect him to execute, because one thing that Lamont has in his favor is he has the ability to accelerate, and none of the other competitors do. And when you get into a tactical race, it's surging, it's counter-surging, and because he can put in that vicious surge, you know what I mean, and not take too much out of him, I think that gives him an advantage. But hopefully, I mean, it's what, 2 weeks and 4 days. I think we'll know within the next week whether Tyler and Chris are running.
Lamont, let me ask you this question: what would a 34-year-old Lamont Marshall tell a 22-year-old Lamont Marshall about this race?
I wouldn't have probably done it as a 22-year-old. I probably would have focused strictly on the track, or made the decision to say either or. The biggest problem I always had is that I was fit for the track coming into May 24. So it's 2 totally different training. Like if you're training for anything from the half mile to 5K, just do that. You have to omit that half marathon from your schedule. As opposed to, you might say, hey, look, I feel stronger in the longer distances, so I'm going to go for the 10K and higher. But don't sort of, try and do both racing with one specific training. That's the only mistakes that I see that I made. And I saw that I lacked strength, because, many of years I was coming into it with a really good 5K time, 10K time, but that was my max. That was considered my strength race. So I should have used 5 and 10K for strength, and then went back down to the 1500 and just did track. But that's the main thing that I've noticed, I've learned over the years.
Funny you should say that, because Mike Watson actually went through the same thing when he was in school. He was doing track, but coming back to try and do well, and would run out of gas near 8 miles or 10 miles, and then once he finished, he kind of refocused and said, let me concentrate and try to win May 24th. So he was got away from track and then done that. So it's a similar way how things go, because you focus in on that, what you feel you're good at the time, and where your strength is.
And that's one thing I noticed with Trey Simons as well. Him doing a full collegiate season, track, and then trying to come back. It's just because collegiate, sometimes you're racing as early as maybe September, October, cross country.
Yeah. He's been running. This year is probably the first year that he's done more track outside, because he usually stops when it's indoor. But he's done a lot of racing over this last. So I mean, even if he came back, he would consider himself an early contender in going out, depending on how he feels. But the length of the race and the heat, I don't think he would.
Yeah,
And with him, I was just talking to him the other day, and he said he's still got, I think, I want to say this weekend.
This weekend is the CIAA Championships.
Where he would have his last chance to qualify for nationals. So if he qualifies or hits the provisional time for nationals, that's on the weekend. The championships is on the weekend of May 20th.
Right.
Anyhow, so he's still sort of focused on trying to get that.
Yeah. I mean, the advice would be he's still young. He can do May 24th in a number of years. You know, so
I think he will eventually win the race.
Yeah,
because it's very strong. And just right now in college, man, that season, you might do 20, 25 races.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you're in no condition to do a half
marathon. Yeah.
But I do think that eventually.
And he's graduating this month too.
Right.
So that's finished. So,
right. The good thing is, people seen his potential when he finished. What was it, second or third a few years ago? Second behind you, right? Right. They saw the potential.
Definitely, yeah.
So it's there.
Yeah.
It's just now he has to work on that extra stuff, because once he finishes the school, he graduates and he comes back. What does he do? Does he stay with track? Does he try to qualify for the Olympics?
Just like you said,
does he, does he decide, what, I'm bad at the long distance, so let me do that. So he's going to have to sit down and discuss that amongst his group, and then decide what he wants to do.
But definitely, I think that once he starts doing like the 75, 80 mile, he will,
training weeks.
Yeah, we would keep an eye on Trey going forward.
And he's always had that determination, even as a youngster before he went to school, on the track.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and we saw that junior Heritage Day, racing and so forth. He's always had that knack, and hopefully, a group of guys who are now doing track that like to do longer distances can unite together and compete against each other in 24th of May down the road.
Because I see it's Ryan Otterbridge.
Ryan Otterbridge,
yeah. All encouragement to him.
Yeah.
That was I think that's the first year I did it. I was in my last year at Barkley. So similar, pretty much same age as him. I was 16. So
youngster Kazai Seeley right behind him. These guys are finishing top 10, although it's 10Ks. They haven't really run the 10 miles so it's a little different. Depends on.
That was my goal. That's what I did in 2001. I was 10th, and then every year it was like 10th, 9th.
Right.
So that was my goal as a junior athlete, just to come in that top 10. And like I said, at that time, you had to really be maybe 122, 123 would get you top 10.
Right.
So it was a little bit quicker. Like a few guys was under 120, and then I think by the time I was 19, I was, if not podium, fourth. Ever since.
When you look back at the time where you have the Terrence, the Jay, the Kevin, you guys are coming through, do you enjoy that? Do you miss that? Because now we have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 going out, as opposed to 5 or 6 or 7 that could possibly, any one of them could win the race. What kind of drives you with that?
I think it's unfortunate. You always want to see the sport grow, because like you said, I remember, I think the fastest, or one of the fastest race was 1990, where I think third or fourth, I think it was Stevie Cairns was fourth in 113. And then the year my brother won, I think the podium was 113, top 5, 115. You want to see that, definitely. You want to see packs, just like how you said, a pack of 3, 4 coming out, and then another pack chasing. So you never want to see a big gap any time. If it's a big gap, somebody's really taking it out, that's fine. But we're talking about consistently having guys under 112, under 115. I think the top 10 should always be under 120 at least. Because like you said, you don't want to have, guys for the sport. There's gaps and stuff. You know.
Larry, you've been coaching your sons for numerous years. You've been in the field of track and field and road running for a number of years. How much has it changed tactically from your coaching perspective?
Well, there's no secrets in distance training, but you accumulate a knowledge over the years. And I would say the difference now is we are a lot more confident, and success breeds success, and it's really satisfying because in 2017, Lamont broke 5 national records. Last year he broke 2, and this year he's broken 2. So that helps us tactically because we know, okay, the program is definitely working. It just needs to be modified slightly going into 24th of May. Like I said, we made mistakes before. And with the lack of depth, because like in 2007, you had 9-time winner Kevin Smith. You had 3-time winner Terrence. You had Jay, who had come second a number of years. You had Larry, who had come third the year before. You had Lamont, who had come second. And those 5 guys, man, you got a lot of national records, man. So I think that was probably the most quality 24th of May race ever, man, in 2007. And so, of course, with 5 guys, the tactics were a lot different. This year, again, depending on who runs, we would, have, a plan A, plan B, plan C, to go in. But training-wise, I think that it's just cruise control for me now because I went on the horse track about a month ago to watch Lamont do some 800s, man. And he was sort of like, what you doing there, Dad, man? Like, because I just leave him on his own. He knows what to do. But I just felt that day, okay, I'll go down just to check his form and, and cadence and all like that. So in answer to your question, it's gotten a lot easier. And hopefully this year, contrary to what Lamont says, I am looking for a gap.
Like you're letting out all the secrets of Ricky Trades. Nobody would even look up at it.
He's saying it. He said it.
I just see it moving easy street. I didn't know it's been up in the horse places. We haven't given out your secrets, huh? Now you have everybody up there looking, binoculars and all.
All the trees, right?
There's a lot of trees up there.
Well, yes it is.
Drones flying around.
Oh yeah, gotta get some trading tips.
But that's it. He ain't going back to no.
Find a new stable.
That's actually my plan B because when it functions on that national stadium, I have to go down the tracks. And usually, I would say the outside, if you run the outer portion, is 400 meters.
It is?
Yeah. Okay. If it's not, it's very close. I think it's pretty accurate.
Okay.
But yeah, it's always like my second track.
Let's take a commercial break and come back. We'll hear more from the defending champion head coach.
back to Inside Sports Talk Radio. Inside Sports Talk Radio on Power 95 FM with host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Baston.
I didn't realize we're just 2 minutes away from newscast. I hope you guys can join us after the news. Just actually real quick, Lamont. Now that your training has decreased from the miles and you're still in your nutrition plan, do you take time off from work now, or you just go to work and then take a couple of days off prior?
Well, that was one of the issues a lot of full-time athletes, athletes that have full-time jobs have. I just take the day before, which will be the 23rd. But you still got to pay bills, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's a struggle that a lot of part-time, what we would call part-time athletes, anybody who's not, training all day, every day. And it's just something you have to work through.
Fair enough. I know Don Bass, you got the news ready for us now. We are about 1 o'clock. One more minute. Any final comments, head coach, before we wrap up, go to news, and we come back to you afterwards?
Yeah, just with the day off, I think that's sufficient because it's not what you do the night before, but 2 nights before, like that they've done studies,
right, and
sure that's the night you really need. So it'll be alright just taking off the 23rd.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna go to the news, and when we come back, we are joined defending champion Mr. Lamont Marshall and his father, head coach Larry Marshall. We'll be back after the newscast.
Inside Sports Talk Radio. Inside Sports Talk Radio. On Power 95 FM. With host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Baston.
Lamont, you said that you've been running this event or competing since 2001. I'm not saying, just 17 or 18 consecutive years, but to yourself, and of course your father's put you into this field because you love running. What does this event, this one, the Bermuda Half Marathon Derby, mean to you?
It was always coming up the biggest race. Back in the 90s, Front Street Mile definitely was a close second. But May 24th was always my family always had camps on Cedar Avenue and just the markings on the road for the campsites and all like that. It was always May 24th was just number one. And regardless if you was even a sprinter, you just was always motivated and compelled to compete in. The history surrounding it, I think, 1910?
1909.
It's the first year. Like I said, you're talking about, this is the 110th edition. So it's very historical and cultural to Bermudians, and it's always been May 24th and Cup Match.
Right.
That the number one sporting events. So for me as a runner, gratefully strength-based runner, I was always able to do it. And like I said, I was 16 the first time, and I've only missed it maybe 5 or 6 times since then, just track or doing other events during that time. But it was always the biggest, hands down, the biggest race of my calendar.
Larry?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess if it's one fault I had, I always geared these guys to 24 for me. It was always sort of like put the track season on the back burner to next year. And because the history, especially for my wife's family, man, it's like when we first got married, I didn't appreciate it because the legendary 6-time winner Ed Sherlock is Lamont's uncle by marriage.
Okay.
His late aunt Nisi Sherlock, and they have been camping out on Cedar Avenue like when Ed Sherlock was winning.
Wow.
So you got that history.
Right.
And then 2007, Larry wins 1997, Larry won the inaugural Junior Classic.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we got a potential champion. So what's that? The song "Don't Take My Spot."
Yeah.
That's it for them. That you do not take their spot on Cedar Avenue, and it's crazy round there. And it 2016. It was, we weren't sure.
Right.
Actually, I had told people Lamont wasn't running because that was where we were at. And then he went to Jamaica and he realized that he probably couldn't make the Olympic qualifying time. So, he came upstairs and it was about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before 24 for me. And he was saying, look, yeah, man, I know you might be a little disappointed, but I think, I'm going to run 24 for me this year, man. I was like... and people were Facebooking me, man, and saying, look, we won't say anything, but it's Lamont running this year, man.
I like that one. We won't say anything.
Yeah,
on Facebook.
Facebook.
Place on Facebook. We won't say anything.
And I put it in a way that he's running, but I didn't say that, But,
right.
So that's the type of thing, and again, like I get excited when they're running 24 for me. I just, especially when you're going in as the defending champion. This is the first time that this has ever happened because Larry got injured in 2007, so he couldn't run 2008. And so we're looking at hopefully Lamont can go from 2 wins to 3, and that puts him in a special category as well.
For sure.
But yeah, the race, like I said, especially to my wife's family, man, they 50, 60 years they've been clapping for champions.
I see that Avenue.
Just hearing that, Lamont, your first win, when you turn onto Cedar Avenue, how do you control those emotions? Because you still have a ways to go. And knowing that family and everybody that's been behind you is right there.
For me, the pressure was relieved, I would say, coming into town. Once you get those long stretches and look over your shoulder, and you're coming into town, and you know unless you fall out and collapse, you got it. So for me, Cedar Avenue was almost like the home stretch for me, because it's within the last mile, and I had already looked back several times coming on, Front Street, and those long stretches. If no one's in sight on Front Street, you know that you got it. So for me, coming in 2016, Cedar Avenue, knowing that I had it, that was really special for me. And it was, like I said, my first victory.
The other day we was talking in the newsroom, talking about Cedar Avenue. People have marked out their spots already. Started last week, right? In tape and in chalk, and like this name family here and this family person here. I'm like, yo, it's on like May 3rd, guys. This is serious stuff.
Yeah.
It's gonna be happens. Yeah.
It's true.
Don't take my spot.
Yeah, don't take my spot.
And a lot of stuff. I mean, you've had police called because of altercations taking place, man, because people wouldn't move,
right?
But again, that's the excitement and passion, and last year when we turned on Cedar Avenue, because I was on the lead car, I could not believe
the amount of people,
the screaming, man. It was like
and the barricades been on.
I'm serious. It reached a crescendo right there, because coming into town, obviously it's more people, because you got your spots up the country like
coming out the west.
Yeah, but when you come in town, but when it hit Cedar Avenue, man, that I've never experienced anything like that in my life.
Looking back at a lot of the history of the event, when you see a lot of the pictures or video, you would see guys on mopeds.
Yeah. That's right.
And then crowding in on whoever's going to win.
Yeah.
Man, today, I don't know if the person really could handle that, because you had so much stuff going on around you, and God forbid if somebody was to come up second place, they wouldn't get through the crowd.
The Cyruses. You got 50 bikes between the first one and second one.
Yeah.
Whoever gets out first, they're gonna win.
Right. Right. Because it's just, but to see how much it's grown since then. I wouldn't say improved, but grown since then. To help not only the runners but the spectators, everybody stay safe during the race. As you say, Lamont, you don't like running on the road because of the vehicles and people not caring about who they run over, how close they get to you and so forth. You have to spend time worrying about a car brushing up against you.
Right,
then it doesn't make any sense being out there for your safety.
I'm like, I guess you would call it in the zone or mice, and I got my headsets in, so I can't hear anything.
Right.
And I try to have it sort of medium, so I can at least, I'm not totally zoned out.
Right.
But like you said, if somebody's coming up behind you, you don't hear or see it. So I stick to the off-road sidewalks and parks.
Yeah.
You mentioned during the commercial breaks that you run in the middle of the road, especially when you hit Front Street, because the aroma people in the barbecues.
For one, you always want to run that straight line.
Right.
Because you don't want to run on the left side where you're somewhere like Harbor Road. You have to run a direct line so that you're not losing distance. Because if you run all the curves, you're actually running further.
Correct.
It's more energy. But for me, it's time. The last 2 miles is way harder. Like I said, you could, like, when you have people cooking and everything up and moving like that, because you probably got 10, 15,000 people in the city alone.
Right.
It's way harder.
Right.
Those last 2 miles, way harder.
So what's the challenge then which Earl was talking about earlier about hills, when you get onto King Street, going up King Street, that's like probably the last hill.
King Street's tough, because like I said, and it's harder. I think that King Street marks mile 12, or like it might be, mile 12 might be just prior to it. So you have a hill like King Street on your last mile, you're coming from Somerset or St. George's. It just kills your legs.
Right.
Snaking through Hamilton becomes, because you come across and you look to your left, you can see everything down. Well, you could hear everything down Cedar Avenue, but you have to go across there to go up. Can I just turn? It's
not like that. Harbor Road's one of the,
because you could hear the noise across the way.
You see it.
Yeah.
You can see, because Harbor Road, I mean, you come in across, that's you still got a solid 4 miles,
Right.
which is over 20 minutes of running.
Yeah.
But you can see, like I said,
Right.
Front Street, so that's always been.
And of course, the people on Front Street can see the lead vehicles, so then you start hearing the noise, and it must be a distraction at times. So you have to say to yourself, stay focused, stay focused, stay
I always
focused.
zone out anyhow because I don't really trust anybody in terms. If I want somebody to hand me water or give me a time split anything, it's just who I've selected before the race. Because somebody, you might be 6 minutes ahead. Somebody, I was right on you. You know, somebody
Right,
might just shout out.
That's always
I don't
the
trust
case.
nobody. I just like if I would set out. Okay, if I want water or maybe like a small Gatorade, I have like family members or people I would trust. You know, and let's say I have them at 2 different spots to say, okay, well, how far was I ahead, behind, or whatever, you know, too. But I wouldn't just.
Are you a warm water or cold water drinker during a race?
My cold. That could hurt you. I remember I threw a bottle away. A lady, for years too. She gave me a cool bottle of water, and I just threw it away one time because it's basically she must have cut it from the bottom of her cooler.
Right.
And this is on Cedar Avenue. Gave it to me, and it almost shocked me.
Right.
And I touched it. It was ice cold, and immediately I had to drop it. So
Right.
always, because for me, I probably dumped half of it over my head anyhow.
Right.
And then drink the rest or whatever. But so it cannot be.
But not cool like that.
No way, not
Shock your buddy.
Are you one of those? Because coming out of the west, I'm not sure if it's coming out of the east. They erect shower like a cooling system. Where are you one that runs
That's
through
good.
that, or
That's really good. Like anything, because it's basically cooling down your body temperature. So that's really good.
If they were able to have multiple of those, would that be an ideal situation?
I mean, yeah, give or take. It's not going, it's not a make or break sort of thing. But I definitely appreciate it towards the latter parts. I believe it's on the latter part of Harbor Road, I think.
That starts coming off the backside of Brent House Hill.
Yeah.
And then there's another one just past where in
It's
Verona
good.
used to be.
It's definitely good. Yeah. But you don't want to get too bad.
Right.
Because then you get heavy.
Last year you were doing some training with what's her name? Came second, female.
Christine
Dale, yes. Any training you've done with anyone else, or you just stayed on your own this year?
I train with her actually tomorrow morning. We're going out on a run. But no, different goals. For me, I train, long, steady miles. I haven't come across, the only person who I used to train with was Trey Simons when he was back in Aaron Evans. And sometimes we wouldn't necessarily do the same sessions, but just for the camaraderie, we would meet up the track. I might be doing 800s, he might be doing just sprints, but just for the general camaraderie. I right now it's not. We're losing a lot of athletes actually as they come up over the years, and obviously like I was saying off air, a lot of guys definitely over-race themselves because I'm heading into my 5th race. May 24th will be my 5th race of the season. Some guys half my age, and I've counted over 30 races, some of them, which is way too much. I mean, for me, and in my personal opinion, you're not gonna last. You can knock it out for a few years. You are not gonna get to my age doing 20, 30 races a year, long distance. If you're a sprinter, I don't know.
Right.
Middle and long.
That comes from experience, right? Obviously,
Definitely,
that definitely comes
Well,
from experience.
yeah, and one thing I wanted to ensure when they were young was that they wouldn't get burnt out. So we, erred on the side of caution. And, like I know in Prospect Primary, I won cross country both years down Ocean View, man. Like the under 11, I won. And the following year, I won the over 11, man. And that, not many people have done that. But, first year in TAC, I was burnt out. 12 years old, career gone. So I made sure that, like, when these guys were young, like from the time 9 or 10, and then like even in the teens, Larry and Lamont did an average of 6 to 8 races a year. That's all they did.
Wow.
Because I wanted to make sure that the career lasted, especially when you get around 17 and 18. Larry secured a scholarship. Lamont didn't want one. So it worked out. You know what I mean? It worked out. And I think that we need to really address some issues in Bermuda because it's phenomenal talent in this country. And a lot of it is wasted because you have kids peaking at 15 and 16, and then you don't hear no more from them the rest of their life. So our template has always been to err on the side of caution. Less races than more races. Less track sessions than more track sessions. And it's worked.
Yeah, I do. I think it's there's a template from a coach, New Zealand coach, legendary Arthur Lydiard. His template is that you train 80% easy and moderate aerobic, and just 20% of like intense or medium. So for me, that how that works out, I have 10 sessions in the week. 8 of them are just regular. I only do 2 sessions, tough sessions a week, and that's from training 10 times. So if you're only training 5, obviously your 80% will be 1. So that's how it's always, you can't mess up 80%. So that's when you know your template, and it's always give or take. You always are on the side of caution and see, exactly how. I mean, for the first 2 months of my season, I don't do anything hard. So that 2 months, 8 weeks is just mileage. Right. I don't do any sprints, any sort of testing myself, and like I said, just getting yourself warmed up, and that's the phase that we know as base, and just taking my time to come through.
Mr. Marshall, how do you identify someone who's a half marathon runner, a 10K runner, a track middle distance runner? How do you identify what that person's strength is?
Well, I would have to work with the individual. Like, for example, with Lamont, he has range from half mile to half marathon, but that's very unusual. Larry was more 5, 10K and half marathon. A lot of it has to do with your build. Like if the marathon runners that are like world class, like doing 2, 2, 2, and 3, they would be 5'4", 5'5". They weigh like 150 and 120 pounds. So a lot of it has to do with physique, because the less weight you have to carry over 26 miles, the easier it is for you. And the same principle applies for the half marathon. So you look at the body build, like sometimes people are more orientated to like the 800 as opposed to the 15. But I would have to work with the athlete themselves.
Let's take another commercial break, and we come back and hear more from our defending champion.
Talk Radio.
Inside Sports Talk Radio.
On Power 95 FM.
With host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Bayston.
Lamont, you mentioned that you scale back on your races. You select the number of races that you race locally on the local calendar. Once this race is over and you defend your title and you win, this will be your third title. What's it like going forward for the rest of the year?
How I've trained is to peak April, May. So this is pretty much the biggest race for the calendar. I've gotten my 2 national records and heading into this race fit. So I probably won't race at all for at least another maybe 2 months. So looking at late July, maybe August, just a few smaller races in maybe East Coast, like New York, and like similar to the 4 mile, and I did like that. But for the most part, yeah, this is the biggest race for me.
So locally, this is going to be the big one for you, and then you just go back overseas 2 months later.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is the attraction, or what attracted you to the 4 miler?
It's the New York Road Runners calendar. So any race that they have on the schedule, I'm pretty familiar with those. So I think some of the times were sort of where I wanted to be. So I said, let me just jump in it, and just to get a little, I think because it was a few weeks after the 5K. So 5K is just over 3 miles. So then the 4 miler, then it was the 9 miler. So I was just gradually building up, and I was trying to get prepared more for the roads as opposed to track.
Right. Because a few years ago, Terrence was jumping into the same New York races and so forth. That's why I noticed that. So just what I just try to figure out what attracts you to that, and obviously you're saying running on the road, putting in that distance in a timely manner because you're gradually increasing. How soon do you want to start that gradual, as opposed to cutting yourself off to give yourself that time to recuperate?
Usually the beginning of the new year. January to March. That's when I like to debut. And I usually debut pretty good. The last 2 years I've debuted in national records. So I know that the base training program and template that I have works. For me to debut at 14:16 for 5K, that's like 4:34 a mile. And for me, like I said, that's really where I wanted to be at. So this season's definitely been a good gradual progression.
When you look back at when you look back at the middle part where they weren't as successful, in between when Larry won and in between when Lamont won, how do you keep them motivated? Because Larry went through a long period of injuries.
That was hard for him because like he would come back for 2 or 3 months, put in all the work, and then re-injure himself, and that can be very frustrating, man, because like that work is just gone. And with him winning in 2007, like I alluded to, the pressure leading into that race, because like the year before, Lamont had come second and Larry came third. And like one of my neighbors was like, come on, Larry, man, these guys got to get up there. I'm like, get up where, man? Like,
second and third.
And again, like they're just like 22 and 23, man. Right. I'm saying, okay, but we got to win. And then after that, the motivation was, because what we wanted to do in 2007 was emulate the Virgil twins, man. Because they had come 1-2.
Right.
Okay. And Jay broke that up. That was his consolation. You might beat me, but you're not going to get that 1-2. So once Larry won, the motivation was to get that second victory. But in the meantime, working with Lamont, we sat down and I had several goals, and we wanted to set as many national records as we possibly could over the varying distances. And right now he has like the 3 flat, 3 steeple, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. So overall we're taking things like 18 or 20 national records. So we've accomplished half of our goals, but we really want to get under 14 minutes for the 5,000, and we keep setting goals like that, and to get down low 29 for 10K. But locally, it's always been to win 24 for May 2. That was like my wife agrees that these
That's the
guys should
ultimate.
won. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What goes now through your mind as a coach as you put everything in place over the last few years? Yes, you tweak some of your programs. You're 18 days away for the 110th event. Your son is the defending title. On paper, there's no one that's really gonna compete. There can be some surprises at the line. That's what sports is all about. But having said that, if he goes and defends his title, how do you now go to the next level of defending, make it number 4 for next year? How do you prepare? I mean, he's getting older. He's 35. He'll be 35 next year. How can you say, well, I want to get up for this race? How do you prepare?
Two things. One, although Lamont is 34, he hasn't had a lot of races, comparatively speaking, which is why every year he gets stronger. And the second thing is that the older you get, like, you can run more efficiently at the half marathon. And I think that, like, even this year, like, okay, the first half of the season would end 24th of May. Then, like Lamont said, you take the 2 months off and give sufficient time for recovery, and then it's a couple of 10Ks that, I think that if he gets in, he would really have a good chance of getting under 30. So that would sort of keep that motivation. But, we definitely want to build on as many 24th of May victories as possible. And I think that if it's breaking records every year, and it's breaking his own records, that means he's stronger than he was the year before.
Previous, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's the goal now. You know what I mean? And again, we'll see what happens on the day, who shows up. And like you said, and we don't count anybody out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they could just have the race of their life, and he could have a bad race. So we very conservative and respect the competition.
Just talking about that, there's always that fear of complacency, not from the athlete himself, but from coaches and people around an athlete, because you have the same routine, you go over it. How do you make sure you keep challenging yourself each time you're out there training to make sure that come race day you're in the right frame of mind?
I always stick to the program because it's you have to have faith in it. So whenever I go into a training block and come out of it, it's usually a really good race. So I don't have to sort of challenge myself or question myself in training or about the program, because every time it's the same training blocks I go in and it comes out success. So really just faith in your program.
Well, you have a lot of people that do that, but then fall into that, oh, I know I've got this. How, as a coach, how do you make sure that he continues to have the faith in that program and that he sees the results on the other side?
Well, like I said, now the space we're in, it's a good space because the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and we've done it time and time again. And the good thing about complacency is that we've experienced that when just take certain things for granted, and then and now we're at the stage where I don't have to say much to him, just because with 24 for me, you cover all the scenarios. You're looking for every little advantage that you have, and you want to make sure first and foremost that you get the win. That's it. You know what I mean? Right. And ironically, like, the 2 slowest times Lamont has run as an adult was the 2 times that he won. Like his ran 112 about 4 or 5 times, but he came second. Then won a high 113, one low 114, and he wins. That's all people remember. So whatever it takes, to get the motivation. And as I alluded to earlier in the show, I think the shape is in this year. He can get under 110, because I'm not sure what Dr. Talker has in store. I don't know if she would have the same incentive as last year, that it will be a bonus if you get under 110 or whatever. But just for him to get under 110 in Bermuda, because it's one Bermudian that has done that, 24th of May, and that was Kevin. And that was like a high 109.
109.57.
Yeah. So I'm saying that will be our goal, to at least emulate that, because that's a tremendous time, and you consider the hills, the heat, humidity. So that, I think it's like 520 a mile.
Right.
So that's what we're going for, irrespective of who's in the race. You know what I mean? If
Right.
Chris or Tyler show up, fine. But if they don't, we're still going for that. If he does, like, say 109.50, and somebody comes out of the blue and beats him, hey,
Yeah. But let me ask you this question, because it's kind of a chuckle one. What do you think the banter would have been like had Larry stayed fit and these two were battling out on several occasions to win May 24th?
I wouldn't have been good. I don't think he would. Yeah, that's because even when they were younger, man, it was like in training, like Lamont just hated to lose.
Right.
Even though Larry was a year older, like they would be doing intervals. So, but I think that it would have been more or less. If Larry would have remained fit, it would have been, I think, a tit for tat.
Right.
That okay, you get it this year. Yeah. So, but
I think it would have been better for my track career, because that's one thing we always wanted someone on the line in the family just to, support the race and the culture and how big it is for us. So if he would have remained fit and winning and on the podium,
Right.
I might have said, hey, look.
Let me just run it for family's sake.
I'm saying I would have just
backed off.
did track.
Right.
Because I knew he would, because that was always the thing. At least one of us win it or be competitive, like
Right.
on the
Right.
podium. So that's a possible scenario I always looked at. Because like I said, for me, the biggest mistake was in 2015 when I actually ran May 24th. And I shouldn't have. I should have definitely stuck to the track, went to Island Games and Pan Ams, fresh and fit for 1,500 meters.
Do you guys ever talk about a little banter between you two about May 24th?
Larry was always stronger. Always. He was always like naturally good at cross country 10K, and for him the hardest part is never reaching his full potential because of injury.
Right.
So looking at me, somebody who was always faster, get under 30 minutes where you say, man, I could have been right there. Once when you see someone who you was either just as good at and marginally better than at a certain period, and you see them sort of breaking the records and because that's 12 years since he won it, and he hasn't been the same since, or not even
close.
not even close, just injuries.
Just
once that sets in, that it's a different type of discouragement when you're talking about injuries, and so he just never really met his full potential, which was the hardest for him.
Lamont, you're at 34, and as they say in the sporting world, when you hit the 30s, you're kind of on the hill. But your dad has stressed that he has put a program in place where things are getting better for you, getting stronger. Could this be the new template for, I use your field of cross country and track and field, to cut back on the running or events, competing in certain events, so you can prolong your career?
Definitely, it's long distance. I don't even do 10 races. I usually maybe 8, and that's why I haven't been. I've always erred on the side of caution. So that's really longevity comes in. But long distance definitely favors usually for guys in the mid-30s and even 40s, because you still major marathons. It's a huge prize purse for the first master. I think it's still like $5,000-$10,000 for like New York, Boston Marathon, Tokyo, and others major marathons. So you have guys, if not full-time athlete, you have masters that are very much hitting the Olympic standard and stuff. So yeah, you can still be.
We have that Kenyan deciding to try and go under the 2-hour mark for the marathon. He tried it a couple of months ago, just missed out. He's going to try it again. How does one train for something like that, and how do you think he'll map it out?
I mean, in all honesty, I don't even get motivated with half these guys anymore, because my opinion, I think half of them is just performance enhancement. I don't think that it's physically possible for these guys to, and it's not so much my opinion, but all getting caught.
Right.
I saw the 1,500 meter champion get caught. The half
Yeah.
marathon world record holder just got caught.
Right.
It's performance enhancement. The type of times these guys are running, half of them, no grimace on the face, they're smiling, they're waving to the crowd.
Right.
I watch it, But in all honesty, I understand. I'm not naive. I understand that to be at that certain level on the podium like that.
But aren't they risking not only embarrassment but kind of being cast to the side of the court, because it's if you're standing on the podium and you're victorious, and then 3 months later you're this villain. Yeah. What have you done to your career?
Lance Armstrong was in the White House.
Yeah,
that's how high he promoted himself. So I mean, it's never going to be someone higher than him,
right?
And certain things you can't take back, man.
Right.
In the sense that Lance Armstrong on steroids won 7 Tour de France, man.
Well, I've always said, I don't think any of those guys doing that particular race. You have to be on something.
That's fair, because everybody's doing it. But the point I'm making is that when you go across that line, man, you got all those accolades and everything. You can't take that back.
Right,
so he got caught and his disgrace. But for 7 years, he was on top of the world.
Right.
But also getting back to Lamont, entering the mid-30s, I think that hopefully next year, trying to get some sponsorship for him, because we've discussed the steeple will be the best opportunity to qualify for the Olympics. And if we can get the proper sponsorship, he can get some quality races out in California in March and April.
Because the deadline is what, June 10th? Something like that?
And I think that if he can get, say, 6 or 7 races from January to March, he can get that steeple time. So we will put everything into that, and hopefully he can get the mark. But after that, Carlos Lopez, he was a translated 10,000 meter runner.
Right.
And at 36 years old, he won the Olympic gold medal in the marathon.
Wow.
So you in your mid-30s, you can, and that's the Olympic gold.
Right.
So you can do some stuff in your mid-30s.
What is the qualifying time for the Olympics in the steeplechase?
8:22. They actually just released the times, and they was well. You know what? That's the automatic timed qualifying.
Right.
They still have. It's the top 45. And when I say top 45, I'm not saying in the world. I mean, you can only have, I think, 3
from each region.
So you might have 1,000 Kenyans that can do the time, but they can only send 3. So when I say the top 45 in the world, it's 3, a maximum of 3, and that's what I'm trying to get as well. Because so usually it's just over 8:30 that will get you in.
Right.
There's non-qualified spots, so that's still. Just guaranteed.
In the short time that you were doing it last year? What was it?
2017.
How far were you off of that?
8:49. Yeah, so I was pretty much like 15, 17 seconds off of the standard. And for me, that one race, I took off, I think 8 or 9 seconds. Just in that one. I went from 8:58 to 8:49 in one race. Wow. So like I said, that's the whole purpose what we're saying, to do 4 or 5, 6 races, back to back in a really good sort of racing block.
Right. Wow. And how would you? I mean, obviously you were training at the stadium, but you need those things in place to be regular.
That's pretty simple though, because like Lamont just got some advice from a couple of steeplechase guys, and him and I went up the track, and we put up 5 hurdles, and he jumped them, and made his debut like maybe 2-3 weeks later. Obviously unnatural, because he has natural spring, so that takes him over the hurdles, and we went from there.
I always thought in Bermuda as well we overlooked the hurdles, because one guy who I was looking at to be a potential 400 meter hurdler was the youngster Sancho Smith. Now I look at him. He went Carifta. He did the 800. 4x400 meter relay and high jump. So he has the speed and the spring and the strength.
That's right.
So I was but me personally, I've not even seen a 400 meter hurdle run in Bermuda in like inter schools or any events. So that's I definitely we should definitely identify with the hurdles as in terms of.
He done it because they went to the, I want to say the NACAT Junior Championships,
Okay.
and in one of those events, because we had a 2 girls and 2 boys, and one of the events, obviously the first lot of events, were the hurdles. So they done a few track meets with the hurdles. But I think you're right.
I think it's
if
a
we're
natural-
having a track meet,
Yeah.
we should be setting up for those things to make sure that somebody might want to try it, and somebody you might pick out somebody who's
The
actually
first time
pretty
I
talented.
jumped over a hurdle pretty steep, I was what, 32? Yeah, so I was like 10 or 15 years late.
Right.
To me, I mean, I should have definitely,
Right.
exhausted
Because
that.
it's big in colleges and
Yeah.
universities.
I never really, never in my life, thought about, gave any thought to the steeplechase.
Same thing with pole vaulting.
Yeah, we need that, man.
We,
because
we, we,
that-
we have it,
Yeah,
but we
Yeah.
just don't utilize
Yeah.
it.
Got to.
You know,
Yeah.
somebody we might find a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
We might
Definitely,
get
yeah.
somebody young enough that wants to try it
yeah,
if they see it.
Yeah.
You know, because you get to Carifta and you see
yeah.
the under
You-
17s are doing it.
And
Yeah.
also, like, not just the hurdles, the pole vault, but the decathlon,
Yeah.
the heptathlon.
Mhm.
Like, you've got Jackie Joyner Kersey, the British guy, man. You would have never heard of them
Right.
had it not been for them competing in those events, man. So we want to maximize the potential that we have, and I just feel that like I'm on, you have certain youngsters that are suited for the 4x4 100 hurdles,
Right.
and they could possibly be Olympians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's take. Let's take our final break before we wrap up, and we come back. We'll wrap up today's event on Inside Sports Talk Radio.
Now,
Back to Inside Sports Talk Radio.
Inside Sports Talk Radio
On Power 95 FM.
with host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Baston.
As you mentioned, top of the hour, we are just 18 days away for the defending champion to come out of the East this year for the 110th Bermuda Half Marathon Derby. Any final comments before we wrap up, Lamont?
No, thanks for having me. I'm already geared up and prepared and excited to be on the line.
All right. Coach?
Yeah, thanks for having us, and I just want to commend Dr. Tucker for putting on a quality event, and both courses are certified, which is very important.
Correct.
Because if you set a national record, the course has to be certified. So we appreciate that, and looking forward to an excellent race from Lamont.
Yeah, well, you said it.
Can be one person on the line, get running you down, cause I'm gonna be in a car.
He's honest. He's in the car.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys coming on and expressing your views and giving us a little strategy, insight on all your trainings around the horse track.
Okay, yeah, keep saying that, yeah. You know what I mean?
But the horse track could be work riding school, isn't it?
I don't think they have a track.
Well, it's not as big, but they
Yeah.
I think they already said VZ Street.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to say all the best.
Thank you.
You coaches putting in all the work to ensure right frame of mind, physical, and Lamont on the start line. It's down to all that preparation actually executing. So good luck on the day.
Thank you.
And I know you guys have still got your plan to go over, because that doesn't stop.
No, and we'll talk between obviously now and 24 for me.
Let me ask you one more question though. Does the strategy change with rain, wind, or heat?
No, just because it's the same for everybody. I always felt that.
Okay.
I mean, and for me, I'm born and raised in Bermuda, so it's not like I have to come and acclimatize to the conditions. I'm just as long as it's fair for everyone, I don't think any conditions favor anyone. If anything, I probably favor the heat better than some other competitors.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Any final comments, Mr. Lamont, on Liverpool?
Oh goodness, well, we be
Maybe watching TV.
screaming for Leicester.
Leicester. I think Leicester can do it, man. I hope for you guys.
I'm on Jamie Vardy.
You heard from me this afternoon if Leicester win. For sure.
You heard from
You know the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask you on May 24th when you defend your title.
I might have to run in my Liverpool.
Actually, I tell you what, you're running your normal outfit. I'll bring the jersey for you.
Yes. You guys.
Cool. Thanks very much,
All right,
gentlemen.
thanks for having me.
So, Ambassador, thanks for having us on board.
Sure, anytime, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.